Hello everybody and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be doing a book review. It's been quite a while since I've done some book reviews, but I actually really enjoy doing them. So I'm going to try and get back to doing a couple every month. It's just, I don't know, I never know which ones to review and which ones to not, because a lot of these are going to be in videos already, so that's kind of why I slowed down on doing book reviews. But I'm back with a book review. I felt this one really needed it because it was a brand new book of the month choice that a bunch of people have picked up, and I feel like a lot of people are going to make the same mistake I did, but it also seems like I am in the super minority currently about this book. So we're going to be talking about My Murder by Kate Williams. Okay, I'm going to start immediately with my star rating. This is not going to be a teardown review, okay? This is going to be a warning and kind of just talking about what this book is about. No spoilers, nothing like that. But I think this book has confused me. So we're going to talk about it really fast. But I did give it a 1 star. I do feel like it's partially on me because I thought this was a mystery thriller. I did not look up the genre before I got it. I don't look up genres before I buy books off of Book of the Month, which I apparently need to start doing. But my thing is I read the synopsis and I go based off of what the synopsis says. And that's what I think the genre, etc. is, which has gotten me in trouble before. This feels like a I have some questions for you situation going on, where I also, yeah, that was also not a mystery thriller. That was a literary fiction. And of course, my mistake, this is also a literary fiction. So for anyone who picked it up thinking that it was a murder mystery or a thriller, it is not. This is not, like, it's the mystery, the murder is like at the forefront, but the murder is not the point. It's the people involved in doing stuff in the story. So that yeah, not good. Not good for me. So it is partially my fault because I did not pay attention to literary fiction. Thing is, I probably still would have gotten it, but my mindset would have been a little bit different. Okay, this is a first, I think, in these reviews. I am physically going to read you the synopsis of this book because it's important for what I'm going to talk about, okay? What if the murder you had to solve was your own? Lou is a happily married mother of an adorable toddler. She's also the victim of a local serial killer. Recently brought back to life and returned to her grieving family by a government project, she is grateful for the second chance. But as the new Lou adapts to her old routines and as she bonds with her other female survivors, she realizes that disturbing questions remain about what exactly preceded her death and how much she can really trust those around her. Now, it's not enough to care for her child, love her husband, and do the work she's always enjoyed. She also must figure out the circumstances of her death. Darkly comic, tautly paced, and full of surprises, My Murder is a clever, devour in one sitting twist on a classic thriller. Okay. Everything in that says almost cozy mystery to me. Like, I thought this was going to be a cozy mystery. No. No, this is a dark book. This is a very dark book. I felt tricked by this book because there is not a single thing in there that mentions what this book is really about. And that kind of pisses me off a little bit because this is I feel like this is a trigger to some people. And this entire book is really revolving around one specific thing, and that is postpartum depression. I feel like it came out of nowhere. Like, it says she's a happily married mother, all this stuff, but that's not the case. Like, she's working through depression, remembering the depression before her death. It is literally just a story about overcoming depression and postpartum depression and not feeling connected to your child and what it feels like to be postpartum. And it's not something I wanted to read. I did not want to read about that. For me, it's not, I don't have kids. Kids were never something that I saw myself having. It's still up in the air. I don't know. I don't know. I just don't. Some people don't know. Like, some people are very like, oh my gosh, I want kids. Some people 100% don't want them. Mine is just, it's ever changing. I don't know what's going to happen. But one of my triggers is reading about kids. I don't like reading stories that have kids. I don't like reading stories about pregnancy. I don't like reading stories about postpartum because I feel this pressure to have children when I read stories like this. And it's definitely not on purpose. Like for this is not trying to pressure you to have kids, nothing like that. But personally for me, it makes me feel that way. And so that is a huge issue for me. And the fact that there's literally nothing in the synopsis that talks about postpartum, I think is a huge misleading thing. I don't like that. I think that is sneaky. I like that feels sneaky, like, because you knew people, if you talked about postpartum in the synopsis, you knew people who would have picked it up just with this synopsis won't pick that up. Like, I wouldn't have picked it up if it said dealing with postpartum feelings. I wouldn't have picked it up, even though the premise is really, really cool. I knew that was not for me. And I feel like it almost took away my choice about reading a full story about a mother and their child. I don't like that. That very much upsets me. I didn't think this was going to be a teardown, but after reading the synopsis, like, the second time, like, on camera, it makes me upset because there is nothing in there that would hint as this being a literary fiction story. No, it just doesn't. So that was pretty much my biggest thing with this. So if you're looking into getting this book and you just want a cozy mystery where it's a really cool, like, sci-fi concept, because this is almost literary fiction sci-fi, because there's other futuristic things kind of happening in this and, like, technology, etc. So for me, this almost falls literary fiction sci-fi rather than mystery, because the mystery is important, but it felt like it wasn't the purpose of this. So it definitely felt more sci-fi-esque. So far, I do seem to be in the minority. Everything that I've seen about this so far, people are really liking. So this may just be like a very specific trigger, because a lot of people don't have issues reading about kids, but some people do. Like, some people have major problems. So if you have an issue with reading about kids and postpartum, this is not the book for you. I would avoid this one. If you want to know what happens, maybe just look up spoilers if you want to know what happens at the end. But otherwise, I would say pass. If you're looking for a cozy mystery and you want to do this one, I would say pass. I don't think this is the right book for what a lot of people are looking for when they read the synopsis. Moving away from that, let's talk about some things that I did like and some things that I didn't like to get more back on track. So things that I did like, I liked some of the science fiction stuff. Like, seeing some of the stuff in the future was pretty cool. I think it could have been explained a little bit better, because again, it was kind of just thrown in there. I do think it could have been explained better, but I like the idea of it. I like that it's this, like, government project kind of thing that adds, like, an interesting layer. And again, a sci-fi aspect to it. I'm pretty sure this author just accidentally wrote a sci-fi book, because that's what it felt like. Because sci-fi isn't just, like, space and rocket ships and monsters. It's cloning. It's like the Stepford Wives. And this definitely has, like, almost a Stepford Wife feeling to it, but not the plot, just like the cloning aspect. Because that's the other thing that this kind of misled, is she wasn't brought back. Like, she wasn't brought back. She was cloned. So the person who's brought back is a clone of her original self. So that also was a bit of a, that is not what the synopsis said. Because that's a lot more emotional. That's a lot more emotional, because then again, you're dealing with an identity crisis on top of this postpartum, but it's like mixing, because when you have postpartum, a lot of times you are having an identity crisis on top of everything. So it's the cloning process is almost like a allegory of the postpartum. See, I'm back to the postpartum because it drives me nuts that it wasn't talked about. Anyway, other things that I liked in this book, I like the video game aspect. There is a video game in here that the survivors of the serial killer play. I thought that was really, really interesting. That was probably my most liked parts of the book, is when they talked about the video game aspect of it. It's not like inaccessible to people who don't like video games. It's just a video game that comes out that they decide to play. And that's honestly about it. Like, I really didn't like much about this book, because I didn't even like the mystery at the end. I hated the reveal. It does a pet peeve of mine, so I'm not going to talk about it, but it felt easy. And again, it didn't feel like a mystery thriller at the end. I was kind of hoping, like, this was supposed to be a DNF, but I really was hoping that the end would kind of be like, oh my gosh, that ending really brought everything together. And I mean, it brought everything together, but in a way I didn't like. In a way I just was like, whatever, this is stupid. So didn't like the ending. I didn't like the writing style. That is probably what hurt me the most, besides the subject material being completely different than the synopsis. The writing style was just not for me. Oh my gosh, it was like cringy reading it. It says it's supposed to be funny, but I was just like, oh, it's just not written well. I did not think it was written well. I hope other people like the writing style, but it's a very disjointed kind of writing style, at least to me. I know writing style can hit people differently. So for me, it felt very disjointed and took me out of the story, and I was just having a really hard time getting through this book. Even though the chapters are short and the book is short in general, it felt like I was reading this for forever because of how I did not like the writing style. I already talked about it, but I didn't like the postpartum blindsiding you. We're not going to go into any more. I already talked about it earlier. You guys don't need to hear about it anymore. And just overall, this just wasn't for me. And I think that's like the biggest thing. So I feel like this review is more of like a who should read this, because it's again, I don't think this was marketed properly. I think this is the same issue that I have some questions for you. I had some other issues with I have some questions for you. I hated that one way more than this one. But I just don't think it was marketed correctly with the synopsis that it has. So yeah, like I said, we're going to end this with who should read. I think if you want to read a story about a mother, this is perfect. This is perfect. If you want a weird science fiction mystery that, again, is heavily about postpartum, try it out. If you want something really different, I will say, this book was unique. I liked the ideas. I liked a lot of the story that it could have been. That's the problem. The backbone of the story, minus even with the postpartum in it, the backbone of the story I feel like was good, but it just wasn't executed properly. So if you want like an interesting, unique story that you really haven't read before, I feel like there's probably definitely a book out there that's like this, but I haven't read that many like this. So if you want something more unique, go ahead and try it out. But if you don't want to read about a mother, if you don't want to read about postpartum, if you wanted a cozy mystery, if you wanted something thrillery, I would avoid this one. This one is not for you. This one was not for me. So I'm really curious to see what people thought about this one, because so far I'm only seeing positive reviews. And I feel like the Debbie Downer in the group, that's just like, this was one of my most anticipated books of June. And that's why I read it so fast when I got my book box, because I was so excited that Book of the Month chose it. And then I ended up hating it. So I'm just like, I'm not live laughing and loving right now when it comes to this. Very, very much not so. So, yeah. So, yeah. Anyway, that is my review for this book. Let me know in the comments down below what you thought about it, if you're going to pick it up, if you've already read it, etc. All the usual things that I ask about. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any future reviews. I'm going to try and put out more reviews and more content, etc. I have some book boxes that should be coming out later this month, because they should start rolling in as the month goes. And make sure you like the video if you enjoyed the content, and I will see you guys in the next video.